Welcome you again in the classes of EVS Academy. Today we have to start the new chapter, that is the Environmental Impact Assessment EIA, the management, environmental impact management, and the legislations, rules and laws that govern about the how to we can procure the environment more safely, how we can harvest the resources more safely without harming the other organisms, other environmental factors, and by keeping the view of our future generation. So for that we have few rules, regulations, legislations all over the world as well as in the India. So both we will discuss on that section. First, we will start with the EIA, Environmental Impact Assessment. Then we will start the Environmental Impact Management as well. If you look at the past papers, in the previous year's papers, the average number of questions that has been asked from this particular unit is approximately 5 questions per paper. Every year, if you analyze 5 to 6 questions at least, you will get from this whole unit. Out of that 5 to 6, there will be questions of about 2 questions from the EIA section and maybe 2 or 3 questions from the legislation section. So this is general trend you can find out all over the previous papers. So let's start the chapter without wasting any time. So what is environmental impact assessment? So environmental impact assessment refers to the evaluation of the environmental impacts likely to raise from a major project significantly affecting the environment. If I try to explain it to you with the help of graph, so suppose this is the impacts and this is the time. So generally in the environment, we see that the time factor is very important, but the impacts on the environment, the changes in the environment is very, very slow. Suppose this is the environment and this is the general natural rate of change with time. Generally succession happens, eutrophication happens, few things happens naturally as well, volcanic eruption and all that things, maybe earthquake or so changes are always there, but the rate of changes or rate of these impacts in the natural environment is very slow. Whenever you introduce a new project, new industry, maybe new factory, maybe a new whole thing, maybe you are cutting the forest or whatever you are doing in the case of damaging the environment. So on that case, the impact are huge and these are very high with the time. So this should be the line, but the actual line due to the factory, installation of factory or maybe installation of any industry that is going to likely to raise from a major project. So likely to raise like this. So this is the actual scenario. So here you can see this is the gap of impact that we have to access. So here this is what environmental impact assessment. So this impact gap that we can see here in this graph that we have to assess. So that is the environmental impact assessment. So this refers to evaluation of the environmental impacts. So these impacts are right now not happening in the environment. But if you install the industry or factory or whatever project you are doing, so after that project, what impacts are likely to happen, likely to raise after the project that you have to analyze, that you have to evaluate. And accordingly, you have to take your actions, whether that particular project should be allowed to install or should be not allowed to established there, that you have to decide with the help of environmental impact assessment. So this is the, you can say, scientific term of understanding this environmental impact assessment. If I tell you in the very simple words or in the layman language, what is the environmental impact assessment? So any project, suppose you want to install in any area, so you have to need the government permission. So the government will tell you to just go with or just do the environmental impact assessment of your project. So you will go to a company, hire a particular company, and you will tell them there are specific companies who only do the environmental impact assessment. So you will tell them do the environmental impact assessment for my project, and this is the details of all my projects. So that company will do the environmental impact assessment for you, and then you have to submit that document to the government. Then government will decide whether they will give you the NOC, no, not or non-objection certificate, or the environmental certificate for your project. So government will decide after seeing that whole report of the environmental impact assessment whether you should allowed to install that industry or not. So this is the major thing or the main purpose of the environmental impact assessment. Ultimately, you need NOC or permission for the government, and that's why you have to go with the environmental impact assessment. So the impact of an activity is a deviation, a change that I have shown you in the previous graph I have made here from the baseline situation that is caused by the activity. So here the term you can see baseline situation. Baseline situation means the current situation. Baseline word is generally used for the normal situation or current situation without being affected by anything. So the impact of an activity is a deviation, a change from the current situation or baseline situation that is caused by that particular activity. So that is not yet caused, but that are likely to be caused, likely to be raised after the establishment of that project. So the baseline situation is the existing environmental situation or condition in the absence of the activity. So this is the current environmental situation you can say or existing environmental situation right now. That is the meaning of this baseline situation. So this question one time already asked in the examination. What is the baseline condition? So baseline condition is the current or existing environmental condition or situation. So I hope the baseline situation and the definition of EIA is very clear to you. Now I am moving ahead to the next thing in this chapter. If you look at the EIA notification, environmental impact notification, so this was released by MOEFCC or maybe the government authority who are doing on this particular section work. So they uh, give this notifications time to time. So according to this notification, you have to conduct your EIA, and then according to the performa, according to the rules, regulation, whatever they have provided in their notification, according to that, you have to apply for your NOC or the environmental certificate to the government, and then the government will decide whether you will get the NOC certificate or environmental certificate or not. So if you look at those notification, the first notification was in the year 1994, EIA notification 1994. Then this 1994 EIA notification was working till the year of 2006. And in the year 2006, that government decided that now we have to revise the older notification and new rules and regulation, you can say kind of amendment there, was released in the year of 2006. So that was the EIA notification of 2006. So both notifications, major points, major things we will discuss here that can be asked in the examination. If you look at the history of the EIA, the very first environmental impact assessment in India was done for the Silent Valley project. So this was the first project which was under the EIA procedure. Then what are the types of EIA? So the types of EIA, environmental impact assessment, can be of two types. So that is the comprehensive EIA. Comprehensive means detailed EIA. All the things you have to include. The full year data will be required. Maybe 2 year data is required. And the full impact of that particular project you have to analyze. What is the rapid EIA? Rapid EIA is done for only 3 months. So 3 months data or seasonal data except the monsoon season, because in the monsoon season there is a heavy rainfall, and due to heavy rainfall, water, air, everything get poured because of the rainwater. So here the reading you will get would be due to the monsoon effect, due to the rainfall effect. Actual reading you will not get. So except the monsoon season, in any season you can do your rapid EIA, that would be only of 3 months data. Generally, the rapid EIA is done very costly to see the immediate effect. Then they analyze the effect. If effects are very huge, or we can say that more study is required, then the companies go with the comprehensive EIA or people go with the comprehensive EIA. So these are the two types of EIA that should be very clear to you. EIA notification, I have again told you, notification or rules provided by the government. Firstly, this was started in the year 1994, and then that was again amendment in the year of 2006. If you look at the EIA draft policy also in the government bench, and that was maybe they will again give a notification in 2023, maybe in this year 2022. So we don't know about that, but Currently also the EIA draft policy of 2021 is under the consideration. So they can change the rules very soon as well. But now we have only two notification, and 1994 notification is now not in use. We are using the 2006 notification. If you look at the EIA notification 1994, so in this EIA notification 1994, you can download the PDF of this notification easily in the internet. You can see that in this particular notification, there were total 29 projects listed under this 1994 notification. And if you want to apply for the NOC, or maybe for that environmental certificate, so that a no objection certificate is required, all from these bodies. So first you have to go with the MOEF, Ministry of Environment and Forest, and you have to convince them, you have to fulfill their rules, regulations and legislations, whatever they are saying. Then you will get the Ministry of Environment and Forest NOC, no objection certificate. Then you will need the SPCB NOC. So that is the State Pollution Control Board no objection certificate that you will get. And then you will need the Forest Department NOC under the Forest Conservation Act of 1980. So you are not damaging the forest, you are not cutting the trees, all that is under this NOC of the Forest Department. All the three NOC you will get. After all the NOC you will get, you have to submit the application form with the all NOCs for the Impact Assessment Division of the MOEF. Then they will decide whether your project should be allowed or not. So this was the procedure of 1994 EIA notification. Currently, the things and rules and regulations all are completely changed. So understand this. This is not now we are following. This was the notification of the 1994 that we were following. Then these are the EIA steps through which you have to go every time when you are doing any environmental impact assessment. So the very first thing that you have to do is the screening of the project. Suppose if you look at the 1994 notification, so we have total 29 projects list, and all those projects have different rules, regulations, or maybe the limitations, permissible limit or whatever the things are. So you have to screen your project in what category you are coming under the 29 project, which one is your first, second, fifth, seventh, or what. Similarly, if you look at the 2006 notification, in 2006 notification of EIA, there are two category of project. One is the A category, another one is the B category. Then in B category also we have B1 and B2 category. We will see that very detail in the upcoming slide, don't worry. But here you have to decide, you have to find out your project is under which category. The A category projects generally required EIA from the central government. The B category project require EIA or that NOC you can say, or environmental certificate from the state government. And under this B2 category, you don't need EIA at all. Under only B1 category, you will need the EIA, you have to need by the state government. So for that, you should know that which category, under which category your project is falling. And that is done with the help of screening. You have to screen, you have to classify, you have to find out under which category your project is coming. So that process is called as the screening project. After the screening project, scoping project is done. In the scoping project, the detailed term of references is prepared by the EIA agency. That company you are hiring to conduct EIA for you, that company will create a term of references. It means a kind of rule book, you can say, or kind of detailed thing about all the details of your project. So that is the term of references. Here all the impacts that can be caused by that particular industry or that particular project, all are detailed, written here in this document. This document is called as TOR, term of references. And this was prepared by the agency, EIA agency, and then you have to submit this TOR document with the application form to the government. So that is done with the scoping step. So scoping step, you have to find out the scope, you have to find out the impact. So that is done with the TOR document. So TOR is associated with the scoping step that you have to remember. Then you have to identify the impact, that is impact identification, like what is the impact on water quality, what is the impact on air, what is the impact on biodiversity, what is the impact on the soil layer, all that impact you have to identify one by one, and detailed manner you have to write down all the things. So that is under the impact identification. Under the impact identification, you have to do the prediction as well. How much damage can be caused? What kind of damage can be caused? What can be the adverse effect? That all prediction you have to form under this prediction step. So that is the fourth step of EIA. Then the next step is the evaluation. Evaluation, so existing condition or baseline studies you have to do there, and then you have to evaluate what can be the uh, impact, you can say, or what can be the size of the impact, the total overall scenario, what can be there. So you have to compare the condition with the baseline condition or the existing condition, that you will do in the evaluation step. After the evaluation step, there would be mitigation step. You have to provide the solution of all those problems. Suppose that much amount of air pollutants you are going to release in the environment. So what mitigation you will do? So maybe you will install a electrostatic precipitator or maybe fabric bag filter house. Suppose you are providing or you are releasing a big amount of uh, polluted water in the environment, then you have to do the mitigation for that. Maybe you have to install a water treatment facility separately for your industry. So that all category under, you have to establish these things under the category of mitigation. Then we have to do documentation of all the things, and this documentation you have to submit to the government, maybe in multiple copies, that we will see in the upcoming slides, and the detailed rules and regulation. And then only the everything would be right, then only the government will provide you the environmental certificate for your particular project. So this is how this EIA is done in these following steps. Sometimes in the examination, they can provide you these steps and they will tell you that arrange these steps in ascending or descending order. So you should know the sequencing as well. So remember it well. Then again, coming back to our EIA notification of 1994. So EIA report that we have to get from the Environmental Impact Assessment Agency. That agency will give you the report. This is your report. You have to pay to the agency. Then the application form, the environmental management plan that is done after the EIA, that we will see in the after completion of this EIA. So that management plan should be there. Disaster management plan and risk assessment plan. These all things are required when you are applying for the environmental certificate from the government for your project. So these all things should be there for you. These all documents would be required. Then EAC. EAC is what? EAC is called as Expert Appraisal Committee. The Expert Appraisal Committee, this is a kind of body, you can say, which is decided by the government. Then uh, government just find out, or you can say recruit the persons of these EAC committee. Those can be the highly qualified persons in the environmental background or environment background, and they will assess these all documents, and they have the responsibility of doing the public hearing with the help of SPCB, State Pollution Control Board. And that was after public hearing, they will decide whether the environmental certificate should be provided to this particular project or not, after analyzing all the impacts and their solution. So this is how the EAC works. So the EAC is what? EAC full form is Expert Appraisal Committee. One time that question is also already asked in the examination. So they have the responsibility, the chairperson and the other members of the EAC, they will conduct the public hearing. If you look at the EIA notification 1994, in the year 1994, no public hearing was involved. But there was an amendment done in the 10th of April of 1997. And after that, the public hearing is also included in the EIA plan. So in the public hearing, what they will do? So they will arrange a hearing. Under hearing, the people will tell their problem, what problems they will face, what they are thinking, and what kind of the things or the problems they are going to face for that particular industry. So that is done under the public hearing meeting. So that public hearing meeting is the responsibility, was the responsibility of EAC under the EIA notification 1994. So they EIA committee, that particular body, tell the SPCB, State Pollution Control Board, to just do this public hearing, arrange the public hearing, and after only public hearing, by listening the problems of the public, all the public of that nearby area of the project will come, they will tell their problem, and then only the body looking at these all documents and the public reaction can give the NOC. So that kind of arrangement we have in the India. So only then only you can start any factory, industry or anything. Otherwise, you are not allowed to do that. So this SPCB issue a notification for the public hearing, that is 30 days before of that public hearing date. The public hearing is done within the 30 days of the notification issuance. So 30 days of time period is provided to the SPCB. So the SPCB will release a notification. That a notification is passed to the all nearby government offices like block office, then we have DM office, and whatever the panchayat offices of the nearby villages, all those will receive that notification. That notification is also published in a local newspaper of that particular area, and where the date and timing of the public hearing is provided. So public will come, and then the SPCB conduct this public hearing, and this EAC process, the environmental impact assessment, you can say, by the expert appraisal committee, take total 90 days to give environmental clearance. So this environmental clearance can take up to 90 days. So you have to ready for this particular timing that will be required if you are establishing any particular type of project. So I hope this is clear to you.